anybody should do this chapter first, just to help you in your memory, to increase your memories. But memory, I remember, I forgot. It's easy to do the latter, right? Forget, okay? And it takes a lot of work to do the former, which is remember, okay? It's difficult to remember and keep that memory in your memory banks as the years go on. Just as a little aside, you know who has the best memories? Usually children from about 4 to 6 years old. Okay? If you ask them what happened, they'll tell you exactly what happened. Okay? As far back as they can remember. A lot of parents don't like that because children have better memories than they do. But then as we start getting older, what winds up happening is our memories can get revised. We have difficulty recalling different things until you get into your 70s and 80s, and you forgot lots of stuff that's happened in your lives. But our memories, those early ages, are usually very, very good. Okay? And as we go on, they kind of diminish with age. All right, so what do you? Do you have a good memory? Well, I have a very good memory. So do you have a very good memory? As I go through this chapter, I want you to learn the material and the research on memory, but I also want to see if I can help you increase your memory too and give you some different techniques to do this. So let's see, what are we starting off with here? We're starting off with 43% of you. That's a pretty high percentage that's there. Some of you just don't have very good memory, right? And that's honest, okay? But it takes a lot of work, okay, to put information in your memories. Some of you are better than others at doing this. Some of you developed, last chapter, better habits, okay, better study habits to put information in. Some of you don't do very well in school, but if I asked you who was the center fielder for the 2002 Rangers, you can probably tell me that, and his batting average and everything else. Because what? You were more interested in that, or movie stars or whatever else. So as we go through this chapter, we'll look at all the different variables that may affect memory. So here we go. Ready? Memory's like it's an active system. It's kind of like a computer, right? There's an encoding. Information goes into the brain. You're encoded, just like what you're doing right now. You're taking information I'm giving to you. I hope you're trying to encode it and bring it in. That's there. So you bring information in. Then you need to figure out how you're going to store it in storage, your hard drive. And then you need to be able to figure out how to bring it back out again, retrieval. So when we're very young, or when we got a brand new computer, what we did is we typed up some Word documents, and then we gave it a file name, okay, encoded it. We put it into the storage system, the hard drive, and then we had to bring it back out again. And when you first started having Word documents and files, okay, it was probably pretty easy to retrieve it because you just kind of look at the names and you went, oh yeah, that's what that is, that's what this is. But as the years went on, your files went from 4 to 400. And now you say, now what was the name of that file? Where was that? And you try to search and try to find those, and it gets more difficult to do that, probably because your encoding system wasn't that proficient, okay? Wasn't that good in that way. So sometimes if you don't encode information correctly, it's in your storage, but you're not able to bring it back out again. A lot of you will go over a multiple choice question, you'll get it wrong, and then they'll tell you the right answer, and you'll say, well, I knew that. Okay, but somehow or another you didn't retrieve that information. And then you say, well, you just asked the wrong question, Steve. I guess so, but I don't know how you put it in. That's there. So when you put information in, you should do it in many different ways as possible, and we'll talk about that. There are 3 stages of memory. How many stages of memory are there? 3. Very good. So as we go through this chapter, I'm going to try to do repetition with you, because we know what the best way to put information in is through repetition, to go over it again and again. So there are 3 stages of memory. The first stage of memory is sensory memory. Just what you're doing right now. You're listening to me, right? You're reading, you're writing things down. So what do you hear, see, smell, taste, touch? It's all sensory memory, and this information from your senses starts going up into your brain. I'm not saying it gets anywhere. Right? You've heard the statement, haven't you? In one ear, out the other. Well, that's what happens sometimes in sensory memory. It goes in one ear, it comes out the other. Just never stays in there. Sensory memory only lasts a few seconds, and it's an exact copy of what is sensed. It's exactly what you hear, exactly what you see, what you smell, what you taste. Okay? Sensory memory. The second stage of memory, how many stages of memory are there? 3. So this is the second stage of memory. So when you are trying to use mnemonic devices or memory systems, one of the best things to do, particularly if you're doing lists, is to figure out what's on the list. There are 3 items on the list. You say now the first item is sensory memory, and then you say the second is short-term memory. But what was the first? It was sensory memory. Right, sensory memory comes first, then the short-term memory. So you take your new information, then you want to go back and retrieve the old information, go over that again, which then that leads you to the second. By the way, some of you don't even have to do this. Whatever you see, whatever you read, whatever you hear, goes right into your brain and never comes out. And you can retrieve it pretty well. Okay? You're blessed. Okay? Those are people who do that. I always disliked those people who were just able to just boom, and it was in their memory banks. I always had to work a lot harder at putting things in there. But some of you can do this very well. All right? So sensory memory, which is the second stage of memory, it's used through what's called selective attention. Remember that chapter on sensation where I said to you, are you focusing? Are you with me? Am I still with me? Did you drift off? Because that's what this stage of memory is. It's short-term memory. It's all about selective attention. Are you focusing or are you drifting off? To get information into short-term memory, we need to focus, attend to what you hear and what you see, sounds and images. In a class like this, the most important thing for memory is what you're hearing and what you're seeing and what you're writing down. I don't use a lot of learning techniques with smell, okay? But by the way, smell and taste are very, very powerful memories. And I'll explain that a little later as well. Very, very powerful. Once you get a memory attached to a smell, it's almost you'll never, ever lose it again. Very powerful stuff. But sound and images are very important for short-term memory in terms of schoolwork. Short-term memory is sensitive to interruptions or interference. Right? It's about selective attention. So if somebody walks through that door as I'm talking, that's an interference that's there. Okay? And you may just lose your attention that's there. If someone said, well, there it is. Okay, so when someone says to you, here's my phone number, and you have nothing to write it down, and you don't happen to have your phone to punch it in, that's there, and you're trying to go, oh, let me see, that's 972-243-4869, 972-243-4869, 972-243-4869, and somebody walks in, or, okay, somebody else says, oh yeah, 551-321, 551, and you're going, what? You haven't put that into long-term memory yet, so if you get interfered with, that goes away. You lose it out of short-term memory, unless you can begin to encode it and rehearse it that's there. Because short-term memory is what? A temporary storehouse. So what was the first stage of memory? Sensory. And give me one item that I talked about in terms of sensory memory. Lasts for a few seconds. Good. All right, now did you look at your notes or did that come up in your head as you came out from there? Right, so you're trying to put this in as we move on. Long-term memory has limitless storage. When my children used to study, sometimes they get tired and they come out and say, my brain is full. I can't put any more information in there. And I think it felt like that. Doesn't it feel like that sometimes? You've just had enough that's there. But it's limitless storage. Okay, your brain doesn't get full. There's no way it gets full. Matter of fact, everything that's ever happened to your life is rolling around somewhere in your brain. Okay? And we'll talk about why you've forgotten some of this information, but it's up there somewhere. Matter of fact, they used to, I don't know if they still do this, when they used to do brain surgery, the researchers used to like that because that was the only way they could figure out what's going on in the brain. And you'd be in a twilight state, so you'd be able to answer questions. Kind of weird, you're wide open up there. But they used to say, all right, what are you thinking about now? And they'd stimulate a different part of your brain, and you say, oh, now I remember when I was in 3rd grade. And all these memories come back if they stimulate different parts of your brain that you're not even aware of. So your brain has limitless storage. That's there. The problem is that we forget how we encode information and we lose it so we can't retrieve it. Your long-term memory works very, very well on meaning. Give something a meaning, make it meaningful to you, you'll be able to pull it back out again. When you study for your test, some of you tonight, okay, when you study for your test, if you sort by meaning, you might want to study by modules. And if that's too much, study by chapters. So when a question comes up, you say, oh, that's from the chapter on states of consciousness, or that's from the chapter on conditioning. Then your brain can go right there into those categories which you encoded that way. An even better way of doing it is do it by modules. Your textbook is written up by modules. Your textbook is written by the SQ4R method. Remember that one from the very beginning? Okay, that was there. That's how it's written. And it's written so that you learn a module, okay, develop the meaning from that, go over multiple choice questions or sample questions, get feedback from it, then you move on to the next one. A lot of you don't do that, right? You read the whole chapter and try to get it that way. Or tonight you'll try to do all 3 chapters at once. Okay? Sort by meaning. Anything that's more meaningful. With hocked gems financing him, our hero bravely defied all scornful laughter. Your eyes deceive, he had said. An egg, not a table, correctly typifies this unexplored planet. Now 3 sturdy sisters sought proof. Forging along, days became weeks as many doubters spread fearful rumors about the edge. At last, from nowhere, welcome winged creatures appeared, signifying momentum success. I don't know, it sounds like some science fiction movie, doesn't it? That's there. And as I read this, I get flashes of different images and memory, eggs and tables. When I see the word edge, I think of the Edge from U2, his guitar player. I think of, and my brain just goes, what, all over the place. That's there. So when you are studying, sometimes you people study something like this and you go, what the hell is this all about? Because you don't give it any meaning, any context that's there. If you gave that context, you'd say, Columbus discovers America. Now, this may become more meaningful. With hocked gems financing him, Queen Isabella had to go sell her jewelry to get money because King Ferdinand wouldn't give the money. And by the way, Columbus and her were having a little affair on the side, and she didn't want to tell Ferdinand that either. So he got the money from her. They never told you that in history class, did they? Our hero bravely defied all scornful laughter, because they did laugh about him, right? Your eyes deceive, he had said. It's an egg, not a table, right? Everybody thought the world was flat. He didn't. Now 3 sturdy sisters sought proof. What were the names of his boats? Santa Maria, yeah? The Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Anybody remember that? Okay. And you went, yeah, I remember that now. Somewhere back in 3rd grade, you had to memorize that, didn't you? Some of you may have really remembered that because you did a play about it and you were the Nina, right? Floating along or something like that. Just remember those plays you did when you were real little? No, you didn't do plays? Okay? Those are actually pretty good learning techniques, and some of you used mnemonic devices to remember this stuff. That's there. Forging along, days became weeks as many doubters spread fearful rumors about the edge. People were panicking on the ship. At last, out of nowhere, winged creatures, probably seagulls, right, showed up. So giving meaning to context, giving something context, helps you remember things. That's why learning by modules, okay, you can take all that information, put it into a category. A test question comes up, you then say, oh, test question's about this. You go to the module, and out comes the information. Okay. The second stage of memory is what? Boy, this should be an easy question. The second stage of memory is what? Just to see if you were paying attention. Just to see if you use selective attention to put it into the second stage of memory. All right, everybody got this? Come on, slow folks, get it in, right? Got it. All right, so 85% of you are correct. The other 15%, I don't know where you were, right? Okay. Second stage of memory, I went through the sensory memory, short-term memory, long-term memory that's there. It's interesting, isn't it? Okay. That's all we'll say. All right, so here's a review. Some of you are more visual learners than auditory learners. By the way, we all learn auditory and visually. That's there in kinesthetic, which is writing and doing. Okay, some of you are better than others at this, but if you're visual, what? We have incoming information. It hits sensory memory. Okay, if you don't attend to it, what happens? You forget it. If you attend to it through selective attention, it goes to short-term memory. Okay, if you don't code it through rehearsal, it's forgotten. Successfully coded, rehearse. It's a buffer rehearsal. Go back to short-term memory. Rehearse it, boom. Then it's sent off to long-term memory. So how many stages of memory are there? 3. The first stage is, second stage is, third stage is. Very good. Somebody will get it wrong, but okay. Some people aren't listening. All right, now let's do something more important is, how do you actually use this stuff? How do you use it? I can't tell you how to use sensory memory because either you're listening or you're not listening. Either you're looking or you're not looking. There's not much to talk about that's there. But in terms of short-term memory is limited to 7 bits of information, and that's all your short-term memory can handle. 7 bits of information. That's it. We used to have phone numbers, at least in Dallas-Fort Worth, that were 7 digits long, right? 243-4869. 243-4869. 7 digits, tell me your phone number. Got it. But now we don't have that anymore, do we? We have 10-digit phone numbers. 972, 970, 817, whatever the number, 214, 469. All the different numbers that are around here right now. It's hard to remember that. Do you remember your Social Security number? Sure you do, but it's more than 7 numbers, isn't it? And some of you kind of worked your hands as you were doing that, okay? Because short-term memory, we can use what's called recording. And in recording, we can store information in chunks. So how do we remember phone numbers now in chunks? 972. 1 chunk with 3 numbers, 243, another chunk with 3 numbers, 4869, okay? Don't call that number, I have no idea who it is, but okay? And then the fourth one, okay, would be a 3rd chunk. So in reality, you could use 7 chunks of information with 7 bits of information on each chunk and still be able to do that with short-term memory. Very few of you can do that. Okay, that's a lot of information to store in there. But we store information from short-term and getting into long-term memory through chunks. How do you remember your Social Security number? It's 3 different chunks, isn't it? In fact, you learn it in order. So that if someone says, for security reasons, please, give me the last 4 digits of the Social Security number, most of you hesitate because you have to go, oh, and there's the last 4, because you have to say the first chunk and the second chunk before you get to the last chunk that's there. Same thing with your driver's license numbers. You usually chunk it out that way. If you don't rehearse whatever you are trying to put into long-term memory, within 18 seconds, it will be gone. You're at a party, and there's like 8 people saying, oh, my name is Steve, my name is this, my name is that, okay? If you go through that line, you just go, oh yeah, Steve and Bob and Harry and Jose and on and on and on. If you don't rehearse that, by the time you got to this person over here, in 18 seconds, you will never remember the first one, unless you've done something to rehearse it. Okay? Steve wears glasses, blonde hair, glasses. God, looks like a surfer. Steve, surfer. I don't. And you have to do something to get it into your memory banks. If you didn't do that, it's going to be gone. And then some of you say, well, I just don't have a memory for names. No, you're just not paying attention. Okay? And what happens, you're not rehearsing it. Okay? Because you need to rehearse these things to get it in. And some of you have a great habit is that when you meet somebody, your habit is to find some identification with that person. Oh, you remind me of, oh, your Steve was a good friend of mine, and he looks like a, and you did something to put that in your memory banks in terms of long-term memory. Memorize that numbers. Oh, you saw another word there now, didn't you? My guess is, okay, we pay attention to what we're interested in as well. Okay, so if I throw the word sex up there, or even say the word sex, okay, you'll hear that first. Matter of fact, you can be at a large gathering of people, talking to someone over here, and someone just out of your earshot, but you can generally hear, if they say the word sex, you'll hear that word among the murmur of everything else. Because we pay attention to what we're interested in. And advertisers know this all the time. They do this to you all the time. So memorize those numbers. See if you can do it. Short-term memory. Memorize those numbers. See if you can put it into long-term memory. If you don't do it, it's going to be gone in how many seconds? Ready? All right, memorize those numbers. That would be hard, wouldn't it? Unless you used what technique? Chunking. Chunk it. Chunk it into, some of you going, I'm not even going to try. There's too many numbers. And that's what happens with some of you, by the way. When you think information is overwhelming, you back out. It's too hard. I'm not going to do it. Too hard to study. You can do this with some patience. You take a deep breath, and you can learn to chunk this. Because what we're trying to do is encode memories. Some of you are trying real hard. I watch your eyes. What was the first number? Not the second one, the first one. I tried to distract you a little bit with the old. Maybe I should put this on your test. Right? What were the numbers I used back on October 14th, 15th. All right. Let's see who remembered it. Whoa, 97%. Now, did you write them down, or did you memorize it? Good. Now, we'll see if you still remember this in a few days. Give you a little motivation there. All right. Now, that's the number that I showed you before that was all grouped together. So I chunked it that way. Okay, and then maybe you chunked it in other ways. Were those the numbers, by the way? Okay. That's a different way of chunking it. To me, that's an easier way because that's based on my Social Security number, right? 3, 2, 4 numbers, and then you add the other numbers that are there. Now, once again, I want to say some of you, when you first see these numbers, you're so overwhelmed by it, okay, you don't want to even be bothered with it, okay? So studying, getting the information into long-term memory requires some patience and some hard work to do this. And too many of us back off too quickly. You never know if I'll ask you this. How about that one? Bunch of letters, right? Unless you chunk it. Now, the second part of this is the more meaningful you make this, the easier it is for you to remember it. The more meaningful you make it. By the way, those of you who are ADHD or ADD, this stuff is like, I don't want to do this. Because your brain has a hard time focusing on this stuff. So maybe I just did a test for you. But if you chunked it, make it more meaningful to you. Right? TV, IBM, US, NY, YMCA. Right? The dumber things you do, probably the easier you're going to remember things as well. The funnier things are, the more interested you're into something, the more meaningful it is, the more you remember. All right, how to use memory systems. Still with me, aren't you? Selective attention. Long-term memory is relatively permanent. That's a great word, relatively. Kind of. Right? The memories you have are relatively permanent, but how do you know if they're accurate? A lot of times our memories are constructively processed. We use what's called constructive processing. Memories are revised as we get older. Sometimes the memory you think you have that is so clear and accurate may not be that clear and accurate. It may be a combination of different memories. Let's go back in time, way back in time. Let's go back to first grade. Come on, let's think about first grade. Who's the name of your teacher in first grade? Get some of that, okay? What kind of desk did you have in first grade? Did you have one of these desks like this? Put your books underneath? Was your desk all wood? Okay? And then underneath it, did your desk kind of open up this way? Did you have a place for your little pencils up here? Did you have a lot of gum underneath the desk that was there probably from 10 years ago? Did you have somebody's initials carved into your desk? That was the school I went to. Okay? What was on the front of the classroom? Were there letters up there in script? Did your teacher change the bulletin boards by season? Did you have a chalkboard or a whiteboard? Did you have computers in the class? Thinking? Who was your best friend? Remember him or her? Did you bring your lunch? And if you brought your lunch, did you have a little lunch pail, or whatever they call them, lunchbox? And who was on your lunchbox? Was it Power Rangers? Who was it? Okay? You thinking about this? Okay, keep thinking. When did you know how to ride a two-wheeled bicycle in first grade? What kind of bicycle did you have? Did you have one of those you can do wheelies on and stuff? One of those small little ones? Was it a big one? Yeah. Who was the assistant principal back then? You would know that if you got into trouble, because then you went to the assistant principal. Some of you wouldn't know that. What was the name of your school? Remember that? How old were you in that first grade? And did you have a birthday party? What'd you get for your were you about 7 years old, 6 years old then? What'd you get on your 6th birthday? Get a present? All right, so, by the way, whatever answers you come up with, I have no knowledge of what's true or not. Some of you are not coming up with anything, are you? Okay? Some of you are coming up with answers, but was it really first grade? Or were you mixing up first grade and third grade and second grade? And the research says the older you get, the more your memories get revised. The more your memories get revised. For those of you who just graduated high school, that was only 11 years ago. So maybe you have that. Those of you might have been 20 years ago. Well, those memories kind of get diminished. Our memories are constantly revised. What we think happened may not have really happened over the years. Sorry to say that. Long-term memory. There's a type of memory called reintegration. Reintegration, where one memory triggers another memory. What I was trying to do with you as well, okay, is try to get one memory, which triggered another memory, which triggered another memory. When you were in first grade, did you ever have what they used to call was library paste? Right? If you had to make, like, you took this white paste and you put it on the back of a picture and you pasted the picture onto something. Did you ever have any of that? Some of you have. Do you remember the smell of that white paste, of that glue? Some of you, that was your beginning of drug addiction. You were sniffing drugs. Do you ever remember somebody in your class who stuck their finger in that white glue and ate it? No? Okay. Some smells that are there. Hey, do you remember the smell of the first boyfriend or girlfriend you had and their cologne or their perfume? Don't want to remember that, right? They're a creep. All kinds of memories. Well, reintegration is when a smell gives you a flood of memories, or looking at a picture gives you a flood of memories. Sometimes your parents will pull out some pictures of you when you're in 3rd grade or 1st grade or 3 years old, and then all of a sudden you go, God, I haven't thought about this in a long time. And as soon as you see the picture, you get a flood of memories that are there. It's called reintegration, okay? And smell is a very powerful form of reintegration that's there. Okay, I'm asking you to think about smells right now. If I got you selectively attending to smells, you could walk out of here, walk down the hallway, and smell someone's perfume, their cologne or body wash, whatever they have on. And if you did that, if you were attending that, it could take you back in time. You can go right back to, oh yeah, that was the perfume she wore, my 7th grade girlfriend. Okay? And not only can you do that, but you might think about that person and then also feel. Okay? God, she was good. God, he was great. What a creep he was. I remember the last time we broke up, what he did. You could have memories attached to that. You could be driving along and a song may come on, and all of a sudden, boom, you're back to a memory. You flash to a memory. That's called reintegration. Okay? It's one of the reasons why we have so many different stations that are on. We have 60 stations, with 70 stations, and 80 stations, and they're nostalgic stations. People like listening to that stuff because that was our music during that time. And you can flash back to things you were doing. Okay? And you'll have your station 20 years from now. You have music from 2010 or something like that, right? Okay? Or you'll be 80 years old, okay, and in a mosh pit somewhere with other people with wheelchairs. Just, okay? Or listen to rap music or something when you're 80 years old. Really loud, too, because you can't hear anything, okay, back in those days. But you'll have your own station, and you'll think, oh, remember when? Okay, it's called reintegration. It's very powerful stuff. It's also not good, though, if you suffer from depression or anxiety, because sometimes a smell is coordinated or conditioned with a memory, and then memories sometimes can be attached to certain feelings. And all of a sudden you get swept away and you're feeling bad because you just smelled certain perfume. Okay, how'd that happen? Okay, it activates it. Now, later on, when we get to the chapter on emotion next week, I'll show you how that actually happens. All right, there's another type of memory when we look at long-term memory. It's called procedural memory. It's conditioned responses. And it is the most powerful form of long-term memory. Once you have had a conditioned response, you never forget it. What's a conditioned response? Learning to ride a bicycle. Okay? Conditioned responses have some type of action to it. It's habitual learning. Right? You never forget how to ride a bicycle. Okay? You may not have ridden a bicycle in 10 years. You'll get back on. You'll be a little wobbly for a minute or two, and then it'll come right back again. Anyone learn how to drive a standard or a stick shift? No one has learned that. Some of you have, right? You learned how to do that on the column or on the floor that's there. I hadn't driven one in probably 25 years, and I rented this Jeep up in Colorado, and we're going to this four-wheel roads and stuff. And I sat down and went, oh my gosh, going to be driving on these little roads on the sides of cliffs and the four-wheel. I don't know if I know how to do that. For about a minute or two, I stalled it maybe once, and then came right back. Right back. Never had a thought about it. I was in Ireland this summer, and you have to drive on, I say, the wrong side of the road. They call it, what, the correct side of the road, right? Which is the left side, with a stick shift that was here in my left hand instead of my right hand. And I was like, oh, no, how am I going to do this? You know, it didn't take me a few minutes, but it took me a while. But after a while, it became what? Unconscious, because it's a conditioned response. That's our previous chapter. Conditioned responses are very, very powerful. You never forget that stuff. All right, other forms of memory, long-term memory, there's something called declarative memory, and that is factual information. Factual information, declarative memory. Who is the father of psychology? Who? Wundt, all right, Wundt. Maybe I should give you a comprehensive final, because you're forgetting that stuff. But that's factual, right? It's something, it's a fact that's there, factual information, okay? Declarative memory. By the way, that's the stuff that goes away first. That's the stuff you forget very quickly, because you're not that interested in it. It's something you memorize for a test, and a lot of factual information kind of goes away. Semantic memory, which is a form of declarative memory, okay, is records, impersonal factual knowledge. That's there. Impersonal factual knowledge. You have no emotion tied to it. It was, give me the name of the person who developed functionalism. William James. Okay? Oh, well, who cares? I mean, isn't that really the answer? Who cares about that? Okay? It's factual, impersonal knowledge that's there, and we usually have a tendency to forget that stuff pretty quickly. Now, episodic memory is where you record personal experiences linked to specific times and places. Once you attach emotions to memories, you're going to remember this stuff much better. Once you attach emotions to memories, you'll remember these things a little bit better. Do you remember your high school graduation? Remember that night of your high school graduation? Do you remember, did you go to your prom? Yeah? Do you remember the night of your prom? Remember the first night you ever got drunk? No. Do you remember? You remember when that person you really cared about broke up with you? Don't go there. Don't try to feel that. But that may be something that's an emotional memory there. It's a record of it that's there. Sometimes those memories are pretty powerful as well. So we store memories in terms of semantic memories, impersonal knowledge, and episodic memories, personal experiences that are there. The more emotional you make something, and if you attach emotion to it, you're going to remember it better. So I should frighten you when I do these lectures. Maybe you'll remember that. How to use memory systems. All right, memory jams. Exactly that. How do you jam information into your memory? You attach positive memories to products, and repetition works. Who uses memory jams and does it very efficiently? Right up there. Advertisers do it. They're trying to jam positive memories and attach them to products. So when you think of a product, you're thinking something positive about that. You're having a good time. It's fun. There's a beautiful woman or a good-looking guy attached to the product. They're trying to get you to attach something positive with their products. And they bombard you with these images over and over and over and over and over again. You say, God, I've seen this commercial 100 times. And they're going, good, because it works. Okay? Because you're watching it again. And I'm trying to jam these positive images, experiences, memories that I want you to attach to my product. Advertising campaigns create a brand. That's what they call it, branding. A brand memory for products. And they try to catch you at the earliest ages possible because children are the most susceptible to this types of advertising. The earlier they get you, that you can brand yourself, okay, the better off it's going to be for them. You'll carry that brand with you forever and say, this is positive. The most popular brand, and the brand that's noticed all through the world, and the brand that's noticed by all children even before they can read and even before they can talk, because people throughout the world will react to that. Little kids will go, ah! They can't even talk yet because they want to go. Why? McDonald's is the Golden Arches, Mickey D's, okay? Known throughout the world. I used to do a lot of student trips. We used to go to Italy, we went to Costa Rica, all over the place, And after a while, people said, all they have here in Italy is Italian food. Duh. Yeah, they do have other foods. But when they saw a McDonald's, you just see them in the bus like, they'd start drooling. I got to get McDonald's fixed. That's there. Little children do this as well. They want to make sure you're associating something good about it. So at McDonald's, the kids run in, they have what? Happy Meals. They don't call it sad meals. They call it happy meals because I want you to be happy, and we're going to give you really salty, sugary foods for you to eat, little small portions that are there. We'll give you what? A little prize in the box as well. Little what? Positive reinforcement to go in with it. What? Everything is bright, bright, bright colors, primary colors, real bright stuff that's there. A little playground to go play in. Oh, I love McDonald's, Daddy. Let's go again. Oh, they get so attached, they get so excited when they see McDonald's. No? Come on, this stuff works. They're jamming you with memories, attaching something positive along with this stuff. They make it emotional. Toys R Us, same color format, isn't it? Take them in there, right? All the toys are right there so the kids can grab them and play with them right away. Very colorful stuff that's there. That's a brand that's there. There's one of the most successful brands in the world once again, Coca-Cola. So when you order a Coca-Cola in Russia, you say what? Coca-Cola. Okay? When you're in France, you say what? Coca-Cola. Okay? What's the French word for Coca-Cola? Or the Italian word for Coca-Cola? Okay? That's been the same can forever. Okay? That's the original brand. They try to change it every once in a while, and people get upset about it. It's not my Coca-Cola. Okay? Whereas their greatest rival, Pepsi-Cola, has changed their brands for years, trying to do as well as Coca-Cola has done. Okay? If you're old enough, you remember all those different ones that they had. Coca-Cola hasn't changed very much. Okay? Because they've got it. They got you. They got a brand stuck in your head. Sometimes I pay attention to commercials because I just want to see what they're trying to do to people. There seems to be more insurance commercials on television than anything else. Why is that? They sure make a lot of money off of us, right? Because what they say to us is, just in case. Just in case you need this, it's called insurance, just in case. So you what? You're in Allstate. You're in good hands. And now they're competing with each other to come up with the most absurd, funniest commercials. Because when people laugh at commercials, that's what a positive experience they have with it. So this one is the Allstate Mayhem guy, which is pretty funny, the way he destroys houses and cars and people. And then there's, who's else? You're in good hands with Allstate, the guy with the real deep voice that he has. And the little girl says it the same way. Ever see that commercial? Okay. Or State Farm, okay, that's there. They don't do very good ones. There's the State Farm Jake, which, you know, the guy is talking to this guy in the middle of the night, and his wife thinks he's having an affair with him, but it's kind of funny, right? But they don't do it as well as this company. This company does it the best. Yes. I can't even keep up with them. They seem to have a different commercial every week. This little guy is famous, isn't he? He's a cute little guy. A gecko, a lizard, whatever he is. This one was pretty popular, right? So easy, even a caveman can do it. Whatever that means. That was so popular they actually made a TV series for a little while out of these people. Or how about that one for a Geico? That was a popular one. I guess that's Watching My Money or something like that. All right? And then I thought this one is the funniest ones because this guy now has all kinds of different commercials. Whee! All right? And that was pretty funny. Now he drives a sports car and steals your girlfriend as well. Pretty powerful stuff. I also think this other one is pretty popular as well. And again, they get to you because we're all laughing. Good old Flo. All right? Did you ever realize what a big head she has? I mean, look at that. She's got a huge head. People who have big heads, we get attracted to. Now, they overdo it with all her makeup and everything else that's there. But she has all kinds of different commercials now. She must be making an awful lot of money because they have varieties of her doing different things in commercials. All right? Let's talk about politics a little bit and using, boom, okay, trying to get you to identify with someone. And I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm probably more independent, so I'll make fun of everybody. Okay? When George Bush was running, what they were selling you was security. It's times of trouble. There's a lot of fear out there. We need to vote for someone who's going to take care of you people. So there were constant images of him taking care of people all the time. Or when Obama ran, it was change we can believe in, hope and change. We're going to change everything because we've gotten tired of people going to war, and we need to change a lot of different things because we're so afraid. I'm going to change this, okay, not get rid of the fear that we've ran for 8 years, and fear and the anger. I'm going to replace it with a time of hope and of change that's there. Okay? And the latest campaign that was there, again, all of these are supposed to be presenting you with an image that you can identify with in a positive way. Are you in or are you out? Or a true American, true strength for Americans' future. Everything is red, white, and blue in that picture that's there. Right? Now you may look at this and go, but it all is to trying to get you what? To connect with them because it's an emblem that's there. Sometimes people even try to label people in very negative ways. Your friends did this to you in 6th grade, and 7th grade, and 8th grade. Okay? They nailed you with a label and said, well, let me tell you about her. Okay? And you weren't around, and they made something up about you because they didn't like you, and they labeled you. And when you put a label on somebody and you say it again and again and again and again, what happens? People begin to believe it. Then you move into something is called confirmation bias. Then people meet you and they already have this label about you. And you may not do what they say whatsoever because it's a complete lie, but if you give just one little inkling that you might do what they've been saying about you, then people will say, you see, she is this way. Okay? Let's just say you bought yourself a new car and somebody was jealous of you buying a new car. Okay? And they told all your friends, she bought a new car, she thinks she's better than us, you see the clothes she wears these different clothes, even the way she talks, sometimes she puts her hand on her hips and she says, like that, okay? And you don't really do this, but they, have a label on you, so you come in, you sit down with your friends, and you have your keys there, and on your keys it has an emblem of the car you just bought, okay? And they go, bought a new car. You say, yeah, I did. I've saved my money up. I worked real hard for this. I got a new car. And they went, new car? Showing it off, aren't you? And you're like, well, what do you mean? I'm not sure. Well, we all know about you, okay? Or some of them don't even say that. They just go, yeah, see, she's stuck up, isn't she? Because you already got the label attached to you. That's not fair, isn't it? But boy, it works. That's a horrible thing to say, but we can attach labels to people, and once the labels are there, we repeat it over and over and over again, and then even if you weren't that way, if you just do something once to indicate that label is true, that's what people remember. It's called confirmation bias. I'm going to look to confirm my bias. Politicians do this all the time. Way back when the Bush team was running for president, this labeling done by the far right, they said that John Kerry was unfit for command. They wrote a book about him, was basically a bunch of lies, because John Kerry was an American hero who had gotten all kinds of medals for his bravery in the Vietnam War. Bush didn't, okay, but Kerry did. And they put this stuff out while Kerry was running for the Democratic nomination. And at that time, a lot of people were very far left, and he had to show that he was even more left than everybody else, okay? So what they wound up doing is labeling him right away. He couldn't what? Just like your friends, you said it about him when you weren't around, so they labeled him, boom, right away, and that label stuck. And every time Kerry said something about his swift boat encounters and what he did and what he likes to do, everybody went, yeah, but you're a coward. Let me tell you, because I've read that book about you. Labels stick. Now, I'm not dumping on the far right, I'll dump on the far left as well, in terms of what they did to Romney. When Romney was running for the primaries, all those people were trying to outdo themselves to see who was more conservative, okay? So they stuck a label on him right from the very beginning, okay? Which is, there's little question he made a fortune from businesses he helped destroy, okay? When he was working for Bain, whether you want to believe that or not, the label was there that he's a rich guy that has no connection with us whatsoever, okay? He's cold, he's calculating, that's there. He's trying to rip us all off. He's one of those people that are there, and the label sticks because he couldn't fight against him. And then every time he said something, okay, that looked like that, people went, yeah, you see, you see, you see? Labeling, not fair, is it? Okay, but we stick labels on people, okay, and you can do it either for good or for, I don't know if I call it evil, but good for, or for negative reasons. Still with me? So listen to all the rhetoric that goes on right now from the far right and the far left. Who's responsible for this budget mess? Is it the conservatives? Is it the liberals? Is it these people? Well, everybody's trying to twist it, okay, to make sure that their side is going to be the right side that's there. Okay? And they're using manipulative techniques on all of us. So we're going to be objective, aren't we? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Types of memory. One type of memory is called recall. What do you recall? All right? You supply or reproduce facts or information, like in essays. If I wanted you to write an essay, I might ask you to write an essay based on the material that's there. The way you study for a test and put information in, okay, is based on what? What types of tests you take. All right? If the way you study for an essay test should be different than the way you study for multiple choice tests. Essay questions is when you have to supply, reproduce facts or information. All of it. List and describe the stages of Erikson's psychosocial dilemmas. Remember that one? That would be what? A list and describe essay question. Compare and contrast Piaget to Erikson's theories. Right? What do you have to do? You have to know everything, don't you? You would have to know all those stages that are there. If you really want to learn material, if you really want to study material and learn it very well, make believe every single test you take is an essay test. Because what you have to do is produce everything. You need to know all of those stages of Erikson and know them all by their name. Most of you studied through what? Identifying, trying to understand what they are. Essays are far superior. You have to know everything, okay, to write a good essay. If you have to study for an essay and you're memorizing long lists, like stages of Erikson's, you have to watch out for the serial position effect. What that says is, if you're memorizing a list, you will remember the first items on the list and the last items on the list and forget what's in the middle. Did you hear that? If you go into the grocery store and you don't write things down or put it on your phone, okay? See, we have these phones nowadays, which I guess someday we're not going to have any memories because this will be our memory. Everything goes here. Okay, you can look up whatever you want right there. But if you didn't have that, and someone said you buy eggs and gave you this long list, you will probably remember the beginning of the list, the bottom of the list, and forget what's in between. If you go to a party and you met a lot of people, you will probably recall the names of the people at the beginning of the party, at the end of the party, and forget the people in the middle. Because that's called the serial position effect. So when you study long lists of things, you need to do more work with what's in the middle than at the end and the beginning. Another type of memory is called recognition. And that's what we do when we study for multiple choice tests. We just recognize what the answers are. You use recognition that's there. Now, I'm not contradicting myself when I say recognition is superior to recall. It really is, unless you're trying to study for a test. If you're trying to study for a test, If you study through recall, you're going to do better on the test. However, we use recognition. Recognition is better for us than recall. Someday, some of you will meet me somewhere outside of school. 5 years from now, we'll be at a bar. We'll be at a concert. We'll be at church. We'll be, I don't know, wherever. And you'll come up to me or I'll come up to you and we'll go, I recognize you, but I don't recall your name. And you'll do that to me too. You'll say, I know you. You were my government teacher. Yeah. Recognition. Anybody ever go to your 5th year high school reunion, 10th year high school reunion, on and on and on? Not yet? Okay. Some of you will someday. You know what they do? They give you name tags. Because what you'll do is you'll walk up to somebody and go, I recognize you, and then your eyes go down, and you look at the name tag because you don't recall their name. Recognition is superior to recall. We recognize people, things, items, but we may not recall the exact answer that's there. All right, for 1 point, supplying or reproducing information is called what? Recognition, issuing, recall, or multiple choice test. Supplying or reproducing information is called what? Recognition, issuing, recall, or multiple choice test. Still with me, aren't you? I have to bring you back. You all drifted away when I was doing that labeling stuff, particularly about politics. All right, everybody got this? We need to go to what, 63? Once, twice, 3? All right, 93% of you, right, 98% of you. Recall, that was an easy question. Wouldn't it be nice if all the questions on the test were this easy? All right, let's keep going. Types of memory. Stay with me. We're in the home stretch here. Stay with me. Most people can stay with me for about an hour. The last 20 minutes, it's kind of hard to. So, do you know that over the years, people's attention span has gotten shorter and shorter and shorter? It's real hard to focus for an hour and 20 minutes. All right, there's something called relearning. So we're doing different types of memory. It's also called a saving score. Do you realize once you learn something once, it'll be quicker to learn it the second time. Learn something once. If you have to learn it a second time, you don't have to spend as much time. That's why a lot of people don't like comprehensive finals. Okay? It's like, I got to learn all that all over again. Well, if you studied 4 hours for 4 tests, and you had four tests, that's 16 hours worth of studying. You don't study 16 hours for your comprehensive final, because you don't need that long because of the saving score. Once you learn something once, it takes you less time to learn it a second time. Some of you got punished, though, because if you know math, if you don't work math and do it on a consistent basis, you forget that stuff. And some of you walked into this college and they said to you, do you have SAT? Do you have ACT scores? And you went, I don't know. Okay, and you don't have them. And they said, well, you have to take our assessment test, right? So you sat down and took the math assessment test, and you were working on it, and you went, I don't remember how to do this. Okay, and they said, sorry, you need to take developmental math minus 022 or something like that, okay? You need to start with what the number 1 is. Okay, so you went back and took the first one, and within days, you were doing that math, and you're going, I know this. That's why, by the way, we try to offer that in 6-week portions and self-paced, because that stuff comes back to people after a while. You just haven't done it in a while. Okay? But relearning says you learn it quicker the second time. All right, there's what's called explicit memory, where you consciously retrieve information. Explicit, consciously retrieve information. Okay? Do you remember the first day of school, the first time you were in here? Think back right now. Okay? We had 80-something people. Now we only have 60-something people. But we had 80-something people in here. Remember how hot it was? I even made a comment like, oh, as the semester goes on, you people are going to wear sweatshirts, which you're starting to wear now. Remember that? Well, if you're remembering that, that is what? Explicit memory. You're consciously retrieving information, going back, being directed, and pulling it out. Implicit memory is when it's unconsciously retrieved. This is when you're just sitting somewhere and all of a sudden, you get this flash of a memory out of nowhere. It's like, whoa, I haven't thought about that in a long time. It just comes out of nowhere. Okay? That's unconsciously retrieved. Those are called implicit memories. Eidetic imagery is another form of memory. I dare anyone to tell me they have eidetic imagery. And I don't dare anybody. Some of you might. Somebody might here.
Is that where you see something one time and you remember it?
No. No, but I'll get to that. Eidetic imagery is photographic memories. Okay? Photographic memories. These are the people who can read your textbook just once and go to the testing center and take a test, and right here, right before their eyes, it's not really there, but right before their eyes, they can say, let's see, operant conditioning. Who was that guy again? What page was that on? There it is right there. B.F. Skinner developed operant conditioning. Let me read about when he taught those pigeons to ball. And they can reread that chapter right before their eyes. Photographic memory. Okay? It's also called eidetic imagery. And the projections are out here. Take a look at that picture. Take a look at that picture. Take a look at that picture. What is that picture of? Alice in Wonderland, right? Got it, got it, got it, got it. Okay, whoops. Do you have a photographic memory? I pushed the wrong button on this one, sorry. I was going to test you first before I did this. Let's see who says they do. 71% is false, well, that's correct. There's that, all right? All right, eidetic imagery. Okay, you ready? Which apron string was longer on Alice? Now you got a 50-50 chance, right? Okay, sure? Okay. Which paw it's a Cheshire cat, wasn't it? Which paw was on top of the other one? Was it right on left, left on right, or was it like this? How many stripes does the Cheshire cat have on his tail, if he even had stripes? Now, those of you who can answer those questions really well have that picture right before your eyes, right over there or right over here, and you're looking just at it. If you had, now you can get the answers to those, okay? If you had a photographic memory that's there. Pretty intense stuff. Some people have eidetic imagery, that they can do all that stuff right away. To me, this would be incredible to have. Wouldn't that be great? But like any other personality trait or anything else, it can also be a burden. You never forget anything. I mean, everything that's ever happened in your life, you got right there. It's some things you don't want to remember. And your brain just gets flooded with information all the time. But I'd like to have that. Most of you don't have it. 20-something% of you say you did. If I tested you, most of you wouldn't have it. You think you do. What most of you really have is the second one called internal imaging. You're visualizing not out here, you're doing it in here. And you think you're doing it out here. Like, how many doorknobs do you have in your place of residence? Count them. Are you counting? No, are you? Most of you are doing this. Your eyes are going like, or you're getting defocused. Because what you're doing is walking through your house, right? You're walking through your house going, there's one doorknob, there's another doorknob. Now, most people get this wrong because you're forgetting the doorknobs that are in your closets on the other side, because there's two to each one, okay? But the act of doing this is you're probably using internal images, okay? And that's what you did with the photographic memory. You really were trying to do it in here, not out here. Because someone with eidetic imagery does it out here. All right, so we did that, we did that. All right? By the way, internal imaging or visualization is a very powerful studied technique. If you can go take your exam today or tomorrow, and if you can visualize your notes as you take the test, now what did he say about that? And you visualize it, boy, that helps you what? Remember the material. How many people visualize as a study technique? A lot of you do. It really works. Works very, very well. By the way, when you visualize, you're concentrating. It's another way to concentrate and make sure you're studying. Yes?
I don't know if it's off topic or on topic, but like, what is it called like when somebody like, for example, they're like, okay, I'm gonna do my homework, they start on it and then like they start doing other stuff. Is that like ADD?
That's like ADD. In fact, that question will come up in the next chapter when we talk about motivation and stuff. But what she asked, what happens when people start studying and their mind drifts away? Is that ADD or ADHD? No, it doesn't have to be that. It just could be poor study habits. That there are things that are more interesting than you're studying. Duh, of course, there is. It's poor study habits. It's a lack of attention that a lot of people have. It's basically just training. And people who do that have never really focused and studied. Okay? It's a form of conditioning that's there. When we talk about this on Thursday, I'll go over how to focus and how to study a little bit better. All right, a lot of you have trouble with memory, but you don't have trouble doing this, which is forgetting. We do this all very, very easily. Okay? Forgetting. Ebbinghouse's curve is actually a curve of forgetting that you can see on a graph. Ebbinghouse's curve of forgetting. Percent saving score, how much you remember, elapsed time since learning. If you studied for this test on Sunday night and you don't take it until Wednesday, I mean, you've forgotten a lot. Okay? If you studied for the test last night and you're going to take it at 5 o'clock tonight, you've forgotten a lot of material that's there already. Okay? But Ebbinghaus curve is the greater the time you get, the longer the time spent, and the longer the time trying to recall the information, okay, from the time you study, the more forgetting you're going to have. And there's the curve that's there. You just forget things. Most of you, what, study the night before the test? The best thing to do is study the night before the test, get a good night's sleep, get here early in the morning and take the test right away. Okay? If you can't do that, get here in the morning, okay, go to your classes and go sit somewhere, okay, maybe with somebody, somewhere, and then do a review. Go back, do a nice 30-minute, 40-minute review. Now you're back up here. Then you go take your test. Otherwise, Ebbinghaus curve of forgetting says the longer you go, okay, the more you're going to forget. Why do we forget? Well, sometimes we just don't put information in correctly. We have what's called encoding failure. Encoding failure. What's the correct penny? Which one is the correct penny? Is it A, B, on and on and on? Without looking at a penny, which one is the correct penny? Everybody got an answer? Now choose your answer, and then I'll ask you right now. That ready? Now, which one was the correct penny? There is a correct answer, but one of those is the penny. Okay? And, all right, so most of you think it's 9, and the correct answer is A. What's going on? Well, who sits around looking at a penny and encodes it into your memory? Right? It's encoding failure. You don't sit around doing that. Who's on a $100 bill? Benjamin Franklin? I look at those all the time because they're always in my pocket. So I know who's on a dollar bill. I got a lot of those. It's if you don't put it in correctly, how are you supposed to get out again? And a lot of you don't do very well in the test because you haven't put the information in correctly. It's encoding failure. You glance over material. Or what you're saying, you start studying, and then you go have a pizza instead. Okay? You just don't put that information in correctly, so we begin to forget a lot of that material. All right, so encoding failure, you're not putting it in correctly. If you don't put it in correctly, you can't retrieve it. Another reason is decay. And I don't mean your brain rots in any particular way, but basically what happens is that eventually, physiologically, what happens if neurons aren't being used, what happens, they start moving around, and wherever memories are throughout your brain, what begins to happen is that sometimes memories just decay. They just eventually just kind of go away, which is a little bit different than disuse. With disuse, if you don't learn a skill or memorize something and use it again and again, it goes away. And another example of that is math. Right? If you don't use mathematical abilities, it goes away. Do you remember how to multiply fractions? Do you remember how to divide fractions? Yeah, you use your calculator, right? How do you do it? Well, if you haven't done it in a while, it's kind of like, I don't remember. It's through what? Disuse. So our memories go away sometimes through disuse. Okay, one more. One more. Pick a card, pick a card, pick a card, pick a card. Got your card? Got your card? Ready? It's a magic trick. 1, 2, 3. Find your card. Made it disappear, didn't I? Pretty darn magical, huh? Pick a card, pick a card, pick a card, pick a card, pick a card. Got a different card. Get a different card, different card, different card. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Pick your card. Disappeared, right? Why is that? Because those cards are not on these cards. They're all different cards. But what happens is that if I'm asking you to do it too quickly, you're just looking at one card, not all the cards. So therefore, it's what? Encoding failure once again. Oh, that was so clever, Steve. I feel like I'm in 3rd grade all over again.